The night before my final Thundermans audition, they called and they were like, can she not wear that red shirt? And I was like, what do you mean don't wear the...
Yeah.
It's my lucky shirt. Ho, ho, ho. Merry In Case It Helps, everyone.
Very nice. Very good.
Hi, I'm Kira.
I'm Max.
And this is In Case It Helps, the show where we have a little chat, share a little fact, and dole out some advice to your questions in case it helps. Hi, Annie.
Hi, the year end is almost upon us.
It's crazy.
Should be sneaking up real quick.
We're in true, let's circle back in the new year season.
Yeah, emails are getting briefer and briefer.
Yeah.
How's your cocoa this episode? Better?
Would you like
Worse?
to sip?
Comparative tasting? Delicious.
It's good, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
Listen, you can always have the full sugar, full junk food version of junk food. You don't need to healthify everything, but I do make a version of hot cocoa that fits my goals, which is 2 cups of Fairlife milk, very high protein, some cocoa powder.
Like
and-
100% baking cocoa,
yeah,
not like chocolate
and
cocoa.
either a little bit of fake sweetener or maple syrup. And it's basically the macros of a protein shake.
Keeps you full for a very long time.
Keeps you full for a long time.
Basically no sugar in it.
Not a lot of sugar. I mean, fake sugar isn't the best thing in the world, but like it's not got the kind of sugar that makes you crash. And tiny bit of caffeine also, because
Yeah.
it's about the same caffeine as a decaf coffee, which does have caffeine, 8 to 12 milligrams of caffeine in decaf, which is a lot for a girl like me who's sensitive to caffeine.
If only you had naloxone for caffeine.
If only. Shout out back a few episodes. It's also my number one PMS hack, because
Cocoa?
when life just feels a little hard, you should just drink some hot cocoa. It
That's
will make you
lovely.
feel better.
Of the whole season so far, what was your best $1 million idea?
Ooh.
If you had to pit them in a fight against each other, who would win?
I mean, silent leaf blowers.
Silently flowers.
Silent leaf blowers is the one that I want to make happen the most. I think your best $1 million idea was mitten match.
You don't think jury duty for public service? I think that's actually a brilliant idea.
I think it is a brilliant idea, but it's not an idea that'll make you $1 million.
That's true.
I think if we're going capitalist with it,
Yeah.
mitten match has to win because it was also just such a brilliant pitch.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Your
went
showmanship.
a little poetic on that
What's
one.
up? What was everybody's favorite $1 million idea from this season? Actually, everyone, give us your favorite
Fact that you learned?
fact
word
of the
that you
season,
learned?
favorite word you learned this season.
Yeah, it's your turn. The camera's on you
let's
now.
have a little chat in the comments and talk about what we learned in the last few months over here at In Case It Helps.
Should we give them one more round of options?
Of course, it's hors d'oeuvres time, and our hors d'oeuvres are nutmeg spiced, baked brie, minced jelly jam, mincemeat jelly jam.
It's hors d'oeuvre time, and I've not eaten since the Second Punic War.
When was the Punic War?
Don't ask me that.
Who was involved in the Punic War?
Hannibal and the Romans?
I was trying to figure out if they have to take a shot. Max is talking about Rome. Take a shot.
Oh. We need like a mini little theme song snippet that like Max talks about Rome or something like that. I can make that happen.
You can make it happen.
I'm the
Ready?
person.
1, 2, 3.
Max talks about Rome.
There it is. Back in England, Max's family live in a town. We would say Max's family lives, but they say Max's family live because collective nouns are plural for them. They live in a town that has old Roman walls, and when you walk around the Roman walls, there are little like placards with information, and in order to make it fun for the kids, on the placard with information and the map, there's like a little Roman guy, and his name is Max, and it says, "Can you find Max?" And we always go for a Boxing Day walk the day after Christmas. We go for a walk around the walls with his family, and we stop at each one. And, "Can you find Max?" So I think we should have a little pop-up of Max the Roman every
pretty good.
time
I'll find
you
him.
talk about Rome.
It's going to happen a lot. Anyway, to questions. First things first this week, I would like to know, what was the best word you learnt this week?
Whoa, right to the heavy hitters. My word is callow,
Callow?
meaning inexperienced or immature, from the Old English callow, meaning bald or bare, of a bird whose feathers have not yet come in yet. So they are immature.
Like Caillou? The bald kid?
Is that why Caillou is called Caillou?
That would be a very deep cut if it is, but
I feel like that's a happy accident.
Are we spelling Callow C-A-L-L-O-W?
C-A-L-L-O-W.
And Callow...
Callow, Old English
E-W?
C-A-L-U,
Oh.
which was bald or bare, referring to a bird, a baby bird that had
baby
not yet
bird.
grown its feathers, had
That's
not
lovely.
yet grown into itself. So yeah, a person who is
Callow.
fledgling, who is not feathered yet, who has not become mature, is
That's
callow.
lovely.
Can I also give you a second one?
Please.
Because I want to figure it out with you.
Okay.
Okay, so the word is rebarbative, which means...
I already have ideas about what that could mean.
Yeah, it means off-putting, repellent, but it comes from the French word for beard, which is
Barbe?
barbe, like barber.
Yeah.
Because it literally meant like beard to beard, fighting in opposition with each
Kissing.
other. Yeah, we're kissing. And I guess it's experienced semantic drift. It's
Right,
gone
softening.
from being about something being
Actively opposing.
actively opposing to even just being passively repellent.
Fascinating. That's super cool.
Because now you could say like, ugh, that building is rebarbative. That fragrance
Yes.
is rebarbative. But it comes originally from like
literally getting in your face
yes,
and fighting you, contentious.
in your face.
Right.
In your face is great. Yeah,
Beard to
rebarbative
beard, yeah.
basically, I guess, comes
That's
from
super cool.
in your face.
I
Isn't
love
that a cool one?
Thank you for 2 words.
Yeah.
Can you combine them in a sentence for me?
No. No, I can. The Callow professional wore a rebarbative perfume to the orientation that caused all the scholars to sneer at her.
Lovely.
Does that work?
Yeah, it works.
Can you do a better one?
Maybe I would say his entitlement, in spite of his callowness, was rebarbative.
The old timer found the newbie's callowness rebarbative.
Get off my lawn type beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, see? Great. What's
may I tell
your
you my word?
word of the week? Yeah. of course.
Jeremiad. It's named after Jeremiah,
I figured.
who's a guy in the Old Testament who complains a bunch. And a Jeremiad is a long, mournful list of woes, a huge, long complaint. It is to complaining what a tirade is to anger.
Ah,
A Jeremiad.
I love that.
Which is great.
Your streak of words that come from people's names continues.
It does.
That's awesome.
It's spelled like Olympiad.
It smelled like Olympiad,
So
correct.
it's like,
IAD, yeah.
Nice.
That's my word, short but sweet.
That's a good one. I like it.
Question 2 today. Best thing you ate this week? Mine's right on the tip of my tongue.
You should go first.
I just ate it before we started filming this episode.
Oh.
I was a little hungry, and producer Danny said, "Can I make you something?"
The answer to that question is always yes. When
if
producer Danny
there's
offers
anything
you
that
food,
comes
you say
to
yes.
mind, and he made me a beautiful plate of 3 little crostinis of sourdough toast with Dutch cultured butter and strawberry jam and flaky salt, and it was heaven.
Strawberry Jim.
Strawberry jams.
Auntie Donna, shout out.
Auntie Donna, shout out.
That is probably the best bite of food I've eaten this
It was
week.
perfect. It was so salty. It was so good. Thank you, producer Danny.
It was served with love.
I felt it.
Best thing I ate this week.
What's the best thing you ate this week?
The best thing I ate this week was a street hot dog. I love a street hot dog, man, especially at 2 a.m. when you're just like so hungry. You've been out all night and then you leave whatever establishment you're in and you get the wafting smell of caramelizing onions.
What the hell are they doing to those onions to make them
Magic.
smell like
Witchcraft.
that from so far away?
There is just nothing better than a street hot dog.
Iconic.
So that was my best eat of the week.
Next, tell me what was the best thing you watched this week?
I really didn't watch anything this week.
Congratulations, may I say. You did it.
I've been really enjoying listening to our record collection
Yeah.
that we've been building out and lighting some tapered candles and watching them melt and reading a book and just like enjoying the act of being home as an activity and like letting my brain actually rest during periods of rest. So I really haven't watched much, which I feel bad about because I want a good answer to this question.
Well, can I give you a tangential question you might
Yeah.
have a great answer to? Best record you listened to this week?
Ooh, I'm really into Blossom Dearie right now.
Yes.
She's got a
have Once
few
Upon a
records.
Summertime
Yeah,
spinning this
Once Upon
morning.
a Summertime from 1959, but she's got the eponymous record, Blossom Dearie, from 56 or 57. She's got 3 records that we're listening to. But yeah, Once Upon a Summertime has been my go-to morning record.
Nothing gets me going like Sorry with a Fringe on top.
Sorry
No.
with the fringe on the top. It's just
so sweet.
lovely. It's the perfect thing to wake up to. We've also been really enjoying the Rick James record.
Yes.
It's so funky, and it's really fun to hear all of the songs that have turned into samples
Yeah.
in the 90s.
I've had Christopher Cross on heavy
Yes.
rotation.
We've been really enjoying the Femi Kuti record.
Oh yeah, the new one, Journey Through Life.
Really
Sick.
cool. What are our other like heavy hitters right now?
I'm loving Wes Montgomery playing with the Wynton Kelly trio smoking at the half note.
Yeah, we do a lot of jazz.
That's a banger.
I tend to grab post-bop. Max tends to grab bebop.
Bebop's an acquired taste.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm fine.
think it should be. I think people are a bit weird about it.
I'm good with hard bop. I'm good with post bop. Bebop is a little much for me sometimes when I'm trying to vibe out.
Crawfish Fiesta, Professor Longhair.
Professor Longhair.
That's party town.
Yeah. Oh, and Big Fun, Shalimar.
Oh, Shalimar, Big Fun,
Yeah.
GQ Disco Nights, all of those ones.
Yeah, we've built a really kind of eclectic collection. We also have a 80s Japanese city pop record
Yeah.
by like various artists, just like a compilation that we love. So yeah, I've not watched a lot, but I've listened to a lot of records and I've been
I
really
love
enjoying
that.
it. What's the best thing you watched this week?
The television, while I've been playing Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of an AC head. I love those games growing up, and I hadn't played the new one. You'd been playing it a little bit a while ago, like 6 months ago when it first came out. Struggled a little bit with it.
Yeah, the locating mechanism is hard for me. I don't have a good sense of direction.
It's a big open world.
It's a big open world, and also like it really requires stealth, which I know is Assassin's Creed at its best. but I'm not great at
And
stealth
your
because
first
of
one
my
was
lack of
Your
direction.
first one was Valhalla.
Which is barely an AC game because there's no stealth
it's
required.
go and hit people.
Yeah.
Which
you
is
can
also
just-
super fun. We love that game.
You can just melee your way through it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I played some Shadows and I love the world building. Also, play it in immersive mode where they're all speaking the actual languages they're speaking and just read the captions. I think it's the best way to do it.
For sure.
But I really enjoyed the story of the world, but I just was really having a hard time like actually doing the gameplay loop of the objects and stuff. So I've been wanting Max to play it for a while so that I can like absorb the story through him, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, I'm only a couple hours in because I've not really had a lot of time, but it's super great so far. I'm loving it. Beautiful world, cool story. I'm learning a lot about Japanese history that I didn't know about. Obviously, it's semi-fictitious, but they sort of flag the real things and you can read all of the articles.
Yeah, we always learn a lot playing the AC games. There's sort of moments throughout the world where if you like hover over the little sphere, it puts an entry into your codex that you can read about. And so we like to sort of, every few playthroughs, we'll pause and we'll actually go read the codex and we'll
read about
research.
this temple, read about this cultural phenomenon that happened
I
in
also,
Japan.
coincidentally, and part of why I wanted you to start playing the game is that I've been absorbing a lot of Japanese culture. I'm reading a book right now about Japanese literature.
Yes, right.
It's called The Pleasures of Japanese Literature, and then I also have a book called The Anthology of Japanese Literature that I'm going to read next. The Pleasures of Japanese Literature is about the themes, and then the anthology is actual pieces.
Example texts
Yeah,
that you can use.
but it's been really, really beautiful. I've been learning a lot, and it's fun to do that in conjunction. While we're talking about best thing we watched, I do just feel like I actually need to make a shout out really quick, which is that this is the shirt that I was wearing in my very first audition for the Thundermans.
Very first,
Not the one that people have seen. There's
13 years ago?
Yeah, there are 2 auditions on the internet that
And it
people
still
can
fits
see.
you?
One is my like final callback
Right.
before I book the role where I'm in the blue t-shirt, and then one was Jack's audition several months later where I'm wearing the
Where you were rolled in for chemistry, right?
purple long sleeve shirt. But this is what I wore in my very first audition for Thundermans. It was my go-to audition shirt because the casting director said I looked good in red once. So I was like, great, I'm going to wear
That's
this
my
shirt
color now.
for everything.
And you do look good in red.
I wore
It's your
this,
colour.
thank you. I wore this for my Haunted Hathaways audition too.
Yeah.
But weirdly, this was my like lucky audition
You
shirt.
still have it. That's crazy.
I wore it for my first Thundermans audition, and then the night before my final Thundermans audition, they called and they're like, can she not wear that red shirt? And I've always been told that whatever you wear for the first audition, you should wear for the callbacks, because
Until
they
they-
liked you,
right.
it worked, just unless they tell you to change it,
Yeah.
wear it. And I was like, what do you mean don't wear the,
Yeah.
it's my lucky shirt.
How unsettling.
I think it's because I had just worn it to network test for Haunted Hathaways, and they had already, or like they just wanted something different.
right.
So I picked that blue t-shirt, which ended up becoming the Thundermans blue supersuit color. And I've always wondered if that was a coincidence or if that was because they liked it on me. Anyway, this is the actual shirt that I wore
Fascinating.
for my very first Thundermans audition when I went in and I said, I know I froze my friend.
You froze your friend.
I know I froze my friend.
From Tilly's, right? We got it at Tilly's.
Did we get
That's
it
where
from
we got all
Tilly's?
your audition
Maybe.
shirts because they had a good selection of shirts with no writing on it.
Oh, right. No branded. Yeah. of
Also,
course.
like, it's so stretchy. It still
Right, I
fits
guess
me
that's
perfectly.
how it still fits you.
I was tiny.
Yeah.
I am not the same size as I was when I auditioned for the
Not even
Thundermans
remotely.
13 years ago. But now that I'm playing Phoebe again, I figured I should start wearing the shirt again.
That's so cool. I love that.
I know, isn't that
How
great?
sweet. What was your $1 million idea of the week?
I have mentioned before that I always like to have 3 books on rotation. A contemporary fiction, an archaic fiction, and a nonfiction. Sometimes 2 nonfictions with different vibes. But that makes it very tricky when I travel because I don't want to just bring 1 book, but I also don't want to bring 4 books just so that I have the right thing to read at any given moment. You might say, Kira, get a Kindle. But I want paper. I want a book that I can flip through the pages of and feel. So my $1 million idea is a paperback book, like 400 pages or whatever, that somehow you can load a specific book into and then wipe the pages. Like, it is a piece of tech
It is there.
that you plug in and unplug and you load something onto and take it off.
But it is also paper.
Feels like paper. It feels like a book. You would just think it was a book until you found out that it's actually this special book that you can load books on and off of. Because, like, I'm sorry, like, the Kindle's, like, it's a great invention, but it takes away for me the point of reading books. I don't want to read a book on a screen. I want the piece of paper. It feels nice in my hands. I want to smell the vanillin from the paper.
People are, I think, nibbling at this idea. There's a lot of like ultra smart tablets now that look
A little more
kind of
booky.
like paper, and the stylus kind of looks like a pencil, and
Yeah.
it basically has kind of dumbed itself down in an incredibly
want.
advanced way to be a little more tactile. But yeah, fascinating. I love
That's
that.
my idea.
Alternatively, a library system where all the libraries in the world are connected, so wherever you travel, you can go there, and maybe the libraries are connected to the hotels, so you can pre-order a couple of books to your hotel from the library in the place you're going.
Libraries are amazing. Libraries would never get approved today.
Yeah.
They would be called...
But also nothing would.
They would be called
fire service.
socialists.
Yeah,
firefighters.
The firefighters,
I know.
like, I'm paying for someone else's house not to burn down. They shouldn't leave that, like...
I know. It would, none of that
nothing
would
get
pass
approved
anymore.
Today,
Yeah, we love libraries. Please go to your local library and use them so that they continue to get funding. We love libraries.
They have everything. They have computers, they have internet, they have DVDs,
I have a printer you
CDs,
can use.
printers you can use, lots of resources. They can help you with your writing and projects.
I saw a video for a town built a library of things where you can go and borrow for free a vacuum cleaner, a carpet cleaner, not just cleaners, other household items, things that you might need, like on a library system.
I love that.
And
That's
I love
awesome.
that. Just community, mutual aid.
The other day I saw a seed library.
That's so sweet.
So you can go and take some seeds and you can plant them in your own garden, and then when your fruits grow, you end up with more seeds and you return them to the library and
Did you
self-proliferates.
notice that our neighbors who had a baby put a sign on their compost bin that it's being paused?
Being paused
the
because
community
there's no time
compost
for
bin because
baby.
they've got a baby to raise. I thought that was very sweet.
very
like
sweet.
they've had this little community project and now they're gonna pause it so that they can raise the ultimate community project, a child.
And then return to composting. Yeah, that's very sweet.
What is your $1 million idea?
It's not a particularly exciting one.
I don't believe you. Your $1 million ideas are always great.
No, this is just a practical one, and it's really kind of self-serving, although I think it would serve everyone, which is airport security where I don't have to take the laptop out of the bag.
Yeah.
I know this is a thing sometimes. I've done it occasionally. I know if you're a TSA thingy, you can do it, but I'm not a citizen of the US, so I can't have that right now.
TSA thingy meaning like
Pre-check.
Yeah.
Pre-check and all of the clear stuff that you can do. I think this should be applied to everyone. We clearly have the technology because I have seen it and been through it, and it's just very annoying, especially as someone who puts my laptop at the bottom of my bag for triangulation, structural
You
reasons.
have to because of the shape of your
Everything
bag.
has to
Mine
come out.
too. My backpack is like a little folder that the laptop slides into, but I have to empty my whole backpack out. Honestly, the most annoying part is just the lack of consistency.
Yes.
Because sometimes they're like, take your shoes off. And I'm like, okay, but sometimes they're like, keep your shoes on. I'm like, well, last time you said to take them off. Like,
That is the worst job in the world.
I
to be fair. That's the
completely
hardest
understand
job.
why TSA agents are always in a bad mood because people are being awful to them and not following directions. But like, sometimes I'll be like, excuse me, is this a laptop out or in? And they'll like bark back at me. And I'm like, I know you've said it 300 times today, but we just got here. I just want to know what to do to make everyone's life better.
So
yeah,
consistent
would be
rules,
good.
ideally the consistently being everything stays in, keep your shoes and belt on, it's fine, would be great.
I'm trying to think about how to make this $1 million idea. What if it's like a specific TSA approved bag that you can purchase, that we could sell as our company, where the TSA, if you have that bag, you can leave your laptop in it?
I fear that there is an inherent friction between style and practicality there.
I don't know,
I
we
think
could
the
make something
bag that you would
cute.
want to travel with maybe wouldn't function for a TSA approved, because I think probably the materials would be limited.
I don't care about my style at the airport. I
I
totally
feel the
understand.
opposite. I long for the days of, so there's photos from the 40s where everyone
that's
has their
true.
dressing up on.
But that's not the world we
beautiful,
live
like,
in
steamer
anymore.
trunks. I know,
Like,
but I
if
do
we-
think we should aim for it.
Maybe. I don't know. It is kind of antithetical to like the wave we've been on for me to say that, because we've been on the wave very much of like, let's take pride in our little items, and they don't have to be expensive and fancy. They just need to be intentional and like, let's dress in a way that makes ourselves feel good. And yeah, I'm sure feeling like you look great at the airport would be great, but there are so many sensory nightmares and it is so easy to get overwhelmed that for me, my number one priority is like comfort and practicality. I'm wearing a pair of pants with as many pockets as possible so my hands are free to do things. I'm wearing pants that zip off into shorts in case it's hot on the plane. I'm wearing the loosest bra I own and fabrics that are not going to irritate my skin, and I want layers in case it's the wrong temperature and they need to fit into my backpack so that they're not tied around my waist making me sweat. Like, it is just about like physical
I think that's a
comfort for me
beautiful
at the
thing that
airport.
illustrates one of the very few differences between us, which is that the idea of doing that much preparation causes me more discomfort than being a little bit cold at the airport.
But it's not that much preparation.
When you list it so dramatically and
I'm
beautifully
being
as
a
you
little
did.
hyperbolic, but yeah, I hear you.
Anyway, that's my $1 million idea.
I like to be prepared. Sue me.
Be prepared, absolutely.
Don't sue me. I'm not prepared for that.
What was the best fact you learned this week?
There is a four-eyed fish called the Anableps. That's it. That's my fact.
That's very boops of you.
He's got two eyes on the top that go over the water and two eyes underneath
Whoa.
that can see under the water. He's like one of those cameras in the Olympic swimming
in the swimming pool. Yeah.
And I like to think that he's called Anableps because he's got the first one for his first set of eyes and the second one for his second set of eyes. Got two names, four eyes, no waiting. Anableps.
That was great, short but sweet.
It's not really a fact as much as just like,
It's so self-contained,
a
I
thing.
can't even think of a follow-up question. I
You
think
know-
it's just self-existent.
great.
It insists on itself.
It does. What is the best thing you learned this week?
Best fact I learned this week was about the invention of the microwave.
Ooh.
The invention of the microwave was by accident.
Yeah. The best things often are.
Best things often are raisins.
No. Should I?
Yeah, quick tangent.
All right.
And then I'll tell you about microwave.
Okay. When Max and I met, I was like, hey, check out this cool fact. Raisins were invented because a guy left some grapes out by accident, and then it was Halloween, and he didn't have any candy to give out, and he was like, these things look kind of gross and spooky, I'll give them out. And thus raisins were born. Not true. And in fact, I can't even find any evidence of this story being true on the internet. Someone must have
someone told you.
Told this to me as a kid, and I, the trusting sap I was like, okay. Now I know to check my sources. That is not how raisins
I find it so endearing that you believe that fact. That is very sweet.
Continue.
The microwave was invented by accident in 1945 by a guy called Percy Spencer. He's working at Raytheon on radar technologies, making magnetrons.
It's very mid-century of him.
Very mid-century of him. Very Raytheon of him. And he's noticing that the chocolate bar in his pocket has melted. And he's like, what's that about? And so he keeps working on his magnetron.
Not body heat, then.
Well, we find out what it is soon. Hint. It's a microwave. He's working on his magnetron, which is a vacuum tube thing that creates microwaves. And he notices chocolate bar's melting, so he tries popcorn next to it. And then, lo and behold, the popcorn explodes. And then he's like, this is interesting. And he puts an egg next to it. And the egg promptly explodes. And he's like, whoa, what is this? And so eventually he goes to Raytheon and they patent microwave cooking technology. And they create this 6-foot tall, 750-pound giant microwave. It costs like $60,000 of modern money. It was like $5,000 then. But like 20 years later, the 60s and 70s, I guess 70s and 80s probably more likely, microwaves are now everywhere.
So this explains why the TV dinner was such a phenomenon.
New technology
to have a microwave in your house.
Also the development of TV channels, broadcast happened at the same time as well.
Yeah, such a cultural movement.
I don't know if you care, but TV dinners were and remained predominantly cooked in ovens, not microwaves.
Oh, really?
Fact check. My fact was slightly wrong.
But interesting nonetheless. Yeah. I think those might be our year-end hors d'oeuvres. Should we get into some big meat questions? First question today is from Trina.
Hi, Trina.
Hi, Trina. Trina writes, I'm articulate in writing, but I freeze up when I speak. Help, please.
Okay.
I'm glad you didn't have to submit that via phone.
I used to feel this way in Spanish, which I've now forgotten most of my Spanish, but I used to very much feel that way of like, I can write you a bunch of stuff, but it's hard to recall. I guess it's a question of recall, right? Because clearly you have the words within you. It's just a matter of getting them to come to your mouth. So it might just be a matter of if you want to become more articulate verbally, just like doing exercises in games. I do a thing where I go through the alphabet and I practice pulling out 2 or 3 or 4 interesting words for each letter. I used to do a lot of games in improv class that helped with verbal articulation. Yeah. So honestly, take an improv class or just look up some of those games. Like one of them was you had to pick an item in the room and talk about it as though you were giving a sales pitch for it. And you couldn't say you couldn't hesitate. You had to go consistently and everyone else in the room would sort of like watch and judge. And if you did pause or stutter or something, they would go, and you would be out and the next person would step up.
I was about to censor myself. I was about to censor myself because I'm becoming self-aware of how often I talk about ancient Rome. But what that is Cicero's shadow debate. Cicero is a great Roman rhetorician.
Take a shot, Max. Talk about Rome.
I'll make it real quick. Cicero is a brilliant rhetorician.
Rhetoricist feels right.
Rhetorician, I think, is actually the word for what they do.
Wild.
But he did this thing called shadow debate, which is where before big debates, because that was what they did, he would basically either have a bunch of imaginary enemies or some like friends playing enemies, and they would just argue about kind of meaningless stuff. And the idea is it's very good at getting your thoughts active in motion and being able to be eloquent and articulate for the point of nothing. And they would critique each other and they would stop each other. Sorry.
No, not at all. That's fabulous. Yeah, I think that's what I would say. Look up some exercises and some practices that you can do and practice your recall, because that's probably the skill that feels a little less rusty to you. But also, like, you might just be a writer. People got different skills. I feel like I can talk forever, but as soon as I have to put pen to paper, it feels much more permanent and scary to me. And I tend to freeze up more when I have to write, whereas I can literally just speak forever. So I don't know, maybe you're just a writer.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things here. One's a really practical one, which is just try exhaling before you start a sentence. Calm the nerves. Like sometimes...
Yeah, but you have to inhale again, otherwise you don't have any air to produce sound.
You just exhale a little bit. It's just about, like, a lot of the times I think the thing that makes us fumfer in speech, to use your word, is just a misfiring amygdala response, right? Because when you're writing, it's prefrontal cortex only. You have time at your leisure. You can perfect things. But I think sometimes when we're with people, we get fear responses that just get in the way of the brain communication that you're used to when you're writing.
Yeah.
Another thing is, I think you need to have a shift of priority. Because you have the luxury of time when you're a writer, we feel very in touch with expressing our thoughts perfectly. And I think when you're speaking, you naturally have to kill that instinct because you can't be perfect. Instead, you have to prioritize completing the thought.
Yeah, totally.
And practice.
Yeah.
You know, practice is the other one here.
Yeah, really interesting question. Practice your skill of recall and be a writer.
Right,
That's great. That's such
it's totally okay.
I love that you feel confident writing. That's such an awesome skill. If you can build up your recall to feel more confident speaking too, you'll be unstoppable. But it sounds like you're already doing great. So You're crushing it.
Keep crushing it,
Yeah.
and I hope you feel more confident in your speech as well.
Totally. Let's move on.
Question 2 today is from Ella. And Ella writes, can people ever really change?
Yes, but I think that more often than not, when people are like, I've changed, they probably haven't as much as they might like to think. I've certainly known some people who are adamant about the fact that they've changed. And like maybe they've changed a little bit, but certainly not as much as they might think. I see it on reality TV a lot too, where people are like,
Yeah, I've
I've
changed,
changed
take
so
me
much
back, yeah.
since this. And then, Andy Cohen will be like, really? It's been 2 months. You've changed so much. But also, like, life experiences do really shape you as a person, and going through some trauma on TV probably does change you a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that people treat change like it's a door you walk through and then you're a different person. I think more correctly, it is a big stone that you scrub away at. And after reps and reps and reps, eventually there will be a space that is the size of a door that you can walk through. I think they are different things. I think the door you walk through is revelation. And I think we sometimes conflate revelation with change. I think revelation can lead to change, but in and of itself is not change. You know what I mean? I think people go, oh, I've recognized that I was wrong and now I'm doing a different thing.
Change is an action, not
Right.
an adjective.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's some philosopher whose name escapes me right now said something on the lines of our character is the sum of our behaviors, right? And if that is true, then you cannot change your character without exhibiting the repeated behaviors to create the sum that creates a new character.
Right. We are what we do.
The quote is by Rick Warren.
It's Rick Warren.
Your character is the sum total of your habits. You can't claim to be kind unless you are habitually kind. You show kindness without even thinking about it.
Lovely. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And so consequently, yes, people absolutely can change. The question, I think, becomes, you can make someone do a new action once, but can you make someone do a new action again and again and again and again? And I think probably not realistically.
Yeah.
They kind of have to want to do it themselves.
Also, like, what do we mean by change? Can a narcissist or a sociopath change? I don't know. Diagnosable personality disorders
Right.
that come from trauma or abuse or physical chemistry.
Yeah.
Some of them cannot. Some of them absolutely can with therapy.
Right.
Can a liar ever stop being a liar? I think it depends on the liar and why they want to stop lying.
And I think it depends upon the extent that you can control your thoughts through active cognition versus subconscious.
Yeah.
I feel very in control of my brain and the thoughts I have. And I think that if I had a behavior I didn't like, I think I have the cognitive strength and willpower to create the repetitive behavior to outact that natural instinct.
Well, we're talking
I don't
about-
know that everyone does.
We're talking about hardware versus software.
Right.
And like the hardware you were born with and the software that was loaded into it. And then the software that you started with, did that give you
Versus
a
what you
framework to
rewrite.
be someone who can upload new software? Like,
Right.
Are we talking about can people change, meaning like can their vibes change? Absolutely.
For
Can their
sure.
priorities
Yeah.
change? 100%.
And in fact, I think they should.
But the
Yeah.
way that this is phrased, can people ever really change, makes me
Yeah.
think that you're
It feels
saying,
like he cheated on me, but now I want
Right.
to get back together with him and he says he won't do it again. Like, can people change like that?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think yes. I think broadly yes. It's what needs to change, and does the person want to change?
I think
it
it has
and
to be a
why?
priority for them. I don't think anyone can change you
Right.
for you.
Can people be changed? I'm feeling more and more like the answer is no. Can people change? I think yes.
I think so too. Because I think change is hard work and you can't do the hard work for someone.
Yeah. Lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting question. Really, really cool questions this episode. You guys are being so creative.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
clever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we move on to our third question?
Let's do it. We're snappy today. We all got holidays to
Yeah,
go celebrate.
exactly. Our third question today is from Naomi. Naomi writes, how do you two specifically expand your vocab?
I mean, it's our favorite thing to talk
oh,
about.
It's so good.
You guys aren't
It's
sick
so
of hearing
good.
us talk
I'm glad
about
we went
words
through the
yet?
rest quickly because now I can work through this one.
Yeah. Okay. Like I always say, acquisition of knowledge is a combination of intellectual curiosity and memory. So the first thing you do is you give yourself more chances to encounter things, right? You read more books, for example. Great way to learn vocab. But the second one is just intellectual curiosity. Every time you see a word that you don't know or that you don't know well enough that you could comfortably use it, you stop and you look it up. And then the third part of that is memory. So you use tools to make sure it actually sticks. For me, that is when I look up a definition, I also look up an etymology, because just knowing what something is called is not going to stick. If I know why it's called that, it's a lot easier for me to remember it. And then just like building a system to keep things, writing a little words list that you can go back and look at every couple of months and go, what are the words I learned this month? Do I still remember them? Share them with your friends. Make a podcast called In Case It Helps.
Very helpful.
That's it, really. Just keep your eyes open, follow your curiosity, and genuinely the quickest way to learn more words is to read more books.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
2 things. One of the things has two things.
Great.
3 things in total. First thing is that I think ultimately, yes, it is fun in and of itself and learning is cool, but it is much cooler and much more helpful if it is also useful to you. I think you should prioritize learning words that you will use in your day-to-day life. Much though the super unique ones are really, really fun, ultimately I'm going to forget them. Like I learned the word ministrations the other day, meaning like little acts of service.
That's cool.
How often am I going to use ministrations? Like basically never.
It's funny, I've been thinking that when we go to answer our like words of the week, because I
Yeah.
keep finding words that are like, that's interesting, but I'm trying to choose the ones where I'm like, I'm happy to now
actually
have that
gonna
in my
use
tool
this.
belt. Yeah.
Yeah. And so some of the ways that I find words that are going to be useful for me are I notice when I use an adjective a lot, and then I try and find some synonyms so I can use them instead. Like you will have noticed throughout this podcast, I say calcify all the time. I think it's incredibly useful. But I was getting a little bored of having to say calcify every sentence. So I looked up some other ones, and now I have ossify, and I have petrify, and I have accrete, all of which are slightly different variations, which allow me to be more precise with my language, but also just to keep it fresher.
Would you just give me the subtle differences between those?
Yes, so calcify...
Is to harden to like stone,
is-
like
yeah,
calcium, right?
Mineral.
Like bone, yeah.
Ossify is literally bone.
Oh, right.
Petrify, petra, rock. So those 3 are more similar, kind of interchangeable, basically, at least in a metaphorical sense. Accrete is the slightly different one. It has this connotation of layers building. If multiple groups might accrete together, you could say that subcultures accrete based upon their differences from the majority culture.
Yeah, that's
or something
cool.
like that, which is just a useful, slightly different way than calcify. The second point is, much like you consistently say that knowledge is intellectual curiosity and memory, I consistently say that everything is connected, and therefore when I'm learning things to try and memorize them, I will connect them. The other day you taught me the word desultory, and I put it in my vocab list next to the word blithe.
Yeah.
Because they're similar but opposites. Desultory means kind of like cursory, unfocused, negative.
Bouncing around.
Blithe means unfocused, carefree, positive. Which reminds me of another thing that I do, which is that when I learn a word, if it's an adjective particularly, I will take the middling version, the extreme negative version, and the extreme positive version together. Like desultory, the middling version is thoughtful, and the super intense version is exhaustive. And now I have the entire spectrum.
Not the middling and intense version of the word itself, but the opposite meaning and the halfway. Yeah, I
and
see.
so now I learn them in groups.
Yeah.
And it's just going to stick in my memory a lot more. It has more glob, as I said the other
Yeah.
day.
Also, I have realized something that you always ask me to do when we're doing this show is you say, can you use it in a sentence?
Yeah.
And it really makes me go, do I have an understanding of this word?
Yeah.
Those are your tips and tricks right there. I'm so happy that you want to build out your vocabulary. Have fun.
It's so good.
Enjoy.
It's so much fun. I hope you enjoy it.
And I hope it helps.
I hope it in case it helps.
With that, folks,
That might have been the quickest episode of all time.
you know, like I said, it's the holidays. People got stuff to do. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will be back in the new year with many more episodes and maybe guests.
Got a couple of guesties
We've
over here.
We've got a growing list of guests that we'd like to have on the show.
Yeah,
If there's anyone you want to see on the show and
Please
hear
let us
their
know.
answers to all of these questions, please drop them in the comments. Let us know. Drop your answers to the hors d'oeuvres and tell us your favorite thing that you learned over the last few months of In Case It Helps. Thank you for being here.
Tell your friends, tell your family over the Christmas table about us so
Like
that we
and
can grow our wonderful
subscribe
community. Like
so
and
that more
subscribe,
people
ring the
can
bell.
find the show.
And we will see you,
We'll see you next
year.
time. We'll see you next year. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Squawk!
There's a bird
Okay,
within the
flying
studio.
into the
Fly
new year.
away. Should we
Goodbye.
fly away?